maybe that's the downfall of society. Maybe we can't get to the point where we're all comfortable and we have to like be struggling. That way we're not like at each other's throats. Like, does that make it just like a little bit of sense?
I think I agree with you to an extent, but I also think a big part of it is the communal aspect of it. You can't do this alone.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
You have to work together to make this happen, and that it is tough, and there is struggle, and it is painful. But when you're doing that as a group, that becomes rewarding.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So they moved him by now. Was the ropes thing like confirmed? Like that's the actual way that they? No,
there's no confirmed. They still do not have 100% factual evidence of how they did it. That is the prevailing theory.
Did they like have a wooden sled underneath or something like that? Because that would help to have some sort of balance, right? Attaching the ropes and
have you ever tried to put a airplane on a sled? I think it would break the sled.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a sarcastic answer, but I think that's the issue. Is like you can't put anything under it because if it's a top-heavy thing, all of its weight's going to be centralized, right? It's not spread. So if this thing is standing straight up and down, 30 feet tall, pure stone, if it was flat and long, you could put things under it and brace it because you can spread the weight out. And like that sled, you can put a sled here and here and here and here, and it spreads it out. But if it's one central like weight, all that weight is going to be condensed onto whatever's underneath it.
Right. What if they took the monuments lying down? Would that work then?
Oh yeah, it's possible. And that was the original theory with like the tree trunks. That was their first thought of how they did that. Is they assumed they rolled them just like that on the trees. It is still, I guess, possible. I just don't think that the tree one doesn't make a lot of sense considering they did cut down their trees anyway while they were still building these things. So it didn't seem sustainable. Because like we had talked about earlier, the amount of tree trunks you'd need to move some of these things was crazy. But one of the first things that happened is they got rid of all the trees because they needed it to farm, and the rats were there, so they were eating everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess they could have done some sort of sled, but like, with what? I guess because I don't think it would be trees.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's at least the prevailing theory. I like it a lot, but it's always possible they figure out something else. Because like I said, this came from like the natives. That's what the natives would always say is, how did the statues get there? They walked.
They walked. And you said there's not too many, like, as far as like natives, there's like barely any left.
So let's move on to that.
Okay. All right.
The Dutch showed up. They killed one of them. They left. And the Spanish came back, I think like 50 years later. Well, as Ro was touching on, this beautiful thing happens when Europeans meet native tribes. They bring all sorts of diseases. So the Spanish, there wasn't a whole lot of record about what really happened because the Spanish didn't really care. They just mapped it out and put a bunch of crosses on there and then kind of left. But once Cook got there, he noticed something very interesting. About 90% of the people were dead.
That is something weird.